Talk here. And today we're going to be looking at the 2020 presidential election and just doing my prediction for things that have happened. So I think lately the biggest changes we've seen is that Donald Trump is becoming a little bit more unpopular by the day because of his tweets or some of his things that he says, and that makes him unpopular. But then also we're seeing some of Biden's political defects coming out. And there's been a couple more gaffes in the last couple of weeks which are not helping him out. But at the end of the day, I mean, that's politics, and I don't think, honestly, he's going to have too much of a problem. But, nonetheless, there's a lot of things changing. I think right now we're actually, maybe before, last 2 months, we were, in the pre-general election phase where, campaigns were transitioning, not going into the general election. But I think as of right now, I think starting this last week, we're in full general election mode. And I think we're in the full general election mode because if you have noticed, you go on anywhere on social media and anything that you want, you essentially are just seeing campaign ads everywhere. I mean, you just Google something about, I don't know, the political system in the United States or the 2020 election, very likely you're going to get a Trump or Biden ad. And I live in a swing state, so I've been seeing a lot more of political ads popping up whenever I'm watching YouTube or going on Instagram and going on these platforms that offer ads for politicians. At the end of the day, it's going to be very interesting to see all of this and how it plays out. I think that with ads, maybe Donald Trump has a little bit of a benefit, but still, he's very down in the polls right now. He's very far behind and has some catching up to. And just simply, Biden campaign is very ahead right now. Does that mean he's going to win the election and it's already called? Probably not. But does that mean that the Trump campaign has a chance of going back and winning some of these seats? Yeah. So these are going to be our starting map, and we're going to start by filling our likely states. So I feel right now states like Nevada and Colorado and Virginia and New Hampshire, both parties are going to pour a little bit into these states when it comes to money. But at the end of the day, Democrats have a really solid growth on these areas. You have a state like Nevada, who has a lot of Democratic voters because it's a very urban area. I mean, Nevada is, technically speaking, Las Vegas, and then maybe Reno and smaller cities in between. It's mostly one big urban area. It's one of those states that just moves around that one big city. And honestly, that really helps out the Democrats, and especially with high Latino turnout, voting for the Democrats, that might put in the likely column between anywhere from, I think, 5 to 7 points. Colorado, very Democratic state at its root. It has a lot of suburbs, again, because it's another one of these states that pretty much only runs on one city, and kind of the other major cities in the state kind of circulate around Denver. So I think that's another state that has very good chance of going to Democrats, especially how suburbs are trending as of now. Now, the state of Virginia, same thing with suburbs. At this point, maybe the state of Colorado and Virginia are some of the more suburban states. And we can really say the same thing about Philadelphia and probably Michigan and pretty much the Rust Belt as a whole. It's a lot of suburbs. And suburbs are currently trending to the Democrats. Now, if Democrats are getting blamed for the policing debate, and then that's kind of wrestling me back with the suburbs. Because look, these suburban voters, I think they wouldn't want destruction, and a lot of them do know what are the chances of something happening if there's no police. And I'm not gonna get into that debate right now, but I think suburban voters will be the one that decide kind of that. And if Democrats start pushing this police thing very heavily, we could honestly see suburbs flip and Republicans winning the state, but right now I'm not seeing it. And New Hampshire, pretty solid Democratic state, no question about that, and I think that's pretty much it. So now we're going to go through the Republican likely states, and I'm going to begin with saying that Republicans are currently looking at the states that they're not getting a lot of likely states. Here and there, yeah, but I think the only true likely state at this point for the Republicans is the state of Texas. I see them winning by 5 to 7 points. It's going to narrow up and everything, but still, I don't see the Republicans, or the Democrats, my bad. I don't see them doing amazing here like they did in 2018. Yeah, it was also high turnout and he had a specific candidate. But remember, Joe Biden is running a nationwide campaign. Running a state, that's why you see a lot of Democrats in some of these red states. Because winning a statewide race, when you're just running specifically for that statewide race, it's easier than running for that statewide race, another 50 because considering DC. So at this point in time, I mean, Democrats really, realistically, they could get close. And if all the cards fall in the right place, yeah, they have a nice chance of getting close and even winning. But again, we can't compare this to the Senate race because, again, Joe Biden is not Beto O'Rourke. He's not from Texas. He's not running these races like that. So I think the argument that Texas might be close must be. We also have to weigh how presidential elections go. And honestly, when you think about it, that actually makes sense. So now we're going to go to our Democratic lean states. And at this point, I would say the Rust Belt is in the lean column. I mean, there was a time that it could have been considered in the low likely column, like around anywhere from 5 to 7%. But I think I moved it down to the high lean margin, so anywhere from 3 to 5%. These states, I think, are a little bit oversaid, like they're going to the Democrats. And at this point in time, I don't see them going by that much. So look, there's one thing that we must consider. Yeah, these states are leaning Democratic. Polls are showing the Democrats ahead. But that does not necessarily mean that they're going to win by those margins. And I think we have to take into consideration the working class voters that solely vote on the economy. Yeah, some of them vote on other things, but most of the voters in the Midwest, and I'm generalizing here, and I think it's a pretty good generalization, most voters in the Midwest only vote on the economy. So, for that reason, I think that just the way that Republicans have handled the economy pre-COVID, I mean, and a lot of people I don't think, like, especially in the Midwest, you're not going to put the economy thing right now as it stands right now on Trump, because if anything, Donald Trump has been moving back factories over there and helping some of the business owners. So I think this area might be a little bit more Republican than people think, and even with trends that we saw in the midterms, pretty much shows, yeah, there were some statewide races, and most statewide races were won by Democrats, but in the lower tier races, the House races, I guess, those races, some of them really flipped to the Republicans, and of course, some flipped to Democrats. But still, I think it's a very good thing to consider that some of these voters really like how Donald Trump kind of handled the economy. And some people say it's a myth that Donald Trump has handled the economy well, but remember, this economy is not given to by Obama. Yeah, he started on the building block that Obama had, but if by that logic, I mean, the good economy that Obama started pretty much just started by George Bush. So, honestly, I think Donald Trump has done a good job at continuing the economic growth, and this region will really appreciate that. So other than the Rust Belt, where are there some more lean states? I think the state of Arizona at this point is pretty lean. Yeah, there's some recent Gravis polls that came out with Trump ahead by +4 and McSally +4. I feel like that's an outlier. And, because look, for example, if you just talk about the Senate race, I don't know, Mark Kelly was leading by likely margins, like by 7 points in the polls. A very big swing, an 11-point swing, I don't see it. So I think that was an outlier, but I think in Arizona, the presidential race is going to be anywhere from like 2 to 3 points. I don't think Joe Biden will do more exceptional than that. And Donald Trump realistically does have a shot here, but it would be if he puts a lot of money and time and effort into the state. So those are the states that I think are in the lean column for the Democrats as of right now. And generally speaking, Democrats were riding on a very big wave. As of last week and the last couple of weeks. But now that kind of wave has stopped and everything has kind of calmed down. I mean, Donald Trump is starting to dig himself back into the hole again. And honestly, this time he might take the Republican Party with him. And I think Donald Trump, if he gave up Twitter, I think he would be doing a lot better. And I don't know, maybe if he continues to say some of these crazy things, which do not go well with some of the voters, maybe he might take the whole Republican Party with him. And I think it's pretty, I don't see that, like, Donald Trump, Joe Biden already won the election by this means, but I think Donald Trump is he's being underestimated. That's the biggest thing I'm seeing. Like, if you turn on any cable news channel, which, by the way, don't watch cable news, that's a really bad thing and very bad habit. But if you see it, like, they're telling you that Joe Biden is going to win by landslide. Yeah, he's going to win, and he's pretty likely to win, but that does not mean that Donald Trump is completely done. And they're only showing a lot of the protests for against Trump and again all these different things. But remember, there's also protests for Trump and people that are liking him. And I think it's a very complicated subject, but Donald Trump is actually being underestimated, and I think that is one thing that people must take in consideration. And honestly, because of that underestimation, that's how he won, surprisingly. And I think the region that a lot of people are neglecting to think about is the Midwest. Yeah, some of the polls show that Joe Biden is ahead by such and such, But that does not mean necessarily that he's going to win there. Even with margin in error, yeah, he's leading. And I'm not saying that Donald Trump is necessarily going to win here, but if he does a surprise victory in one of these states, personally, I wouldn't be surprised. So those are all our likely Democratic states. Now let's go to our Republican likely states. So I think, or lean states, my bad. So Maine 2nd Congressional District at this point, very conservative district. I've been saying it for a very long time. Yeah, they have Democrat in the House. Nonetheless, I think the voters presidentially, they would vote for someone like Trump. And I think this trend would follow in states like Iowa and Ohio. So look, with these states, it's a very interesting state because, and I would say the state of Georgia as well. These states have been, as of lately, looking like some states that could easily flip for the Republican Party, but for the Democrats, my bad. But I feel like these states have their Republican at their core. Yeah, when they have exceptional turnout, like in 2008 or 2012, Ohio and Iowa easily flipped to the Democrats. But again, their base is rural voters, and considering the fact that the political views of Americans have been flipped, the suburban voters that used to vote Republican are now voting Democrat, and the rural voters who used to vote Democrat now vote Republican. Those people are trading political views. And essentially, these are fully very rural states. Like, these states are mostly made up of rural areas. Yeah, they have big cities in them. I would say, big parts in Iowa, like, I'm forgetting the capital city, and Iowa City, there's big part, or Des Moines, that was the name of this capital city, I don't know, I forgot that. And then you have, like, Columbus and Cincinnati, and, Cleveland in Ohio, and Atlanta in Georgia. They're big cities, but again, Democrats don't have enough support here to offset some of the suburban vote in these areas, which again, it's still going to them, but also compared with the huge amounts of rural votes that are in this area, I'm not seeing Joe Biden doing great. If he can get better appeal with the rural voter, I think we can easily see these states flip to the Democratic Party, but as of right now, I am not seeing it. So last but not least, we have our tilt states for both political parties, and I think the state of Florida. Yeah, the polls are showing and indicating that the Republicans are very unpopular here, and for that reason, I'm putting it for the Democrats. Look, DeSantis is being shamed because he really isn't handling coronavirus well, and the voters are seeing right through that. And honestly, it's going to hurt the Republicans down ticket and down ballot, and even like Donald Trump as a general. I could easily see DeSantis being a one-term governor, but that's a discussion for another day. But I think at this point, Florida, the Republicans, they have an easy chance at winning the seat. And if you ask me, from the swing states that they're here, this is one of them that could probably go to the Republicans. That is going to the Democrats as of now. But I think also that there's also a very big, growing Republican base in this state. Despite what a lot of people may think, the state of Florida, the suburbs are trending a lot more Republican. Yeah, some of the suburbs are trading and changing towards the Democrats. But the major suburbs, where the heavy parts of districts and heavy amount of voters are, those voters are voting for the Republicans. So for that reason, I put this race in the tilt Democratic column. Although polls might indicate otherwise, but I think with just looking at the race and how it is and how like the people in Florida tend to vote, and I know there's a lot of different factors for this election, especially with the new 1 million felons added to voter list. We also must think that also that's not going to make a huge impact on the election, because yeah, only a couple of I mean, if you take an average voter turnout, it would be only about, who knows, 50% of them, and they have been shown that they will have a very little like partisan split, and it's like a little bit skewing to the Democrats, but it's something minor, like the difference might be 10,000 votes or something like that. Nonetheless, important race, and we should be looking at it. So the last two races are North Carolina and Nebraska's 2nd Congressional District, and these are going to be the two closest districts. I honestly have changed my mind in North Carolina. I think with statewide races, like Senate and governors, Democrats are going to do great. But with the presidential election, I'm not seeing it. Yeah, Joe Biden is a very, very likable Democrat. He's very popular amongst Democrats and even some Republicans. But nonetheless, I don't see him winning this state. Because, like, honestly, this state is very hard to win. And considering that, like, over the last couple of years, Republicans have been constantly gaining. And I know, a lot of these places have a lot of party fatigue. But still, it's hard to tell. Because look, the state of North Carolina is one of those states that honestly you can't tell. You're gonna be able to tell the state of North Carolina once you get like a couple of days before election day. If African American turnout is high, Democrats have a nice chance of winning. But I think African American turnout actually, although it might be high, I think maybe some African Americans, especially in the state of North Carolina, might flip and vote for Trump because again we've seen a growing African Americans for Trump or black people, black voices for Trump movement, which at the end of the day, yeah, it's going to be only a minority amongst the black community, but a bigger chunk is good for the Trump campaign. And Nebraska's second congressional district, as of right now, Democrats are looking like they might win here. And it's just the fact that they are looking like they're going to win here because there's a lot of rural areas, but they're a majority of urban areas. And when they're fired up, they go out to vote. But when they're not, they don't. So, honestly, right now, it's looking good for Joe Biden. And all he really needs to do is go in there and focus a little bit of money there. It's just one district, so I don't know if that would hurt him too much. But overall, I think the biggest message we must take from this prediction is one, Democrats are probably going to win the election. By how much, we don't know. And we can get closer to election day and see it's going to be by a bigger margin or a lower margin. And I think the biggest thing to take away is that the Rust Belt is not as solid as people may think. And the Sun Belt might be the most important part of the election if the Sun Belt goes. So guys, I want to thank all of you for watching. Like and subscribe and turn your post notifications to get notified when I post my next video. I hope you enjoyed this video. And go check out the Purple Political Talk website. The link is down in the description. And so you can see many great content. I'm going to be updating that website oftenly. And yeah, we're so close to 200 subscribers. If you could get us to 200 subscribers, we're probably going to do a Q&A session. And that would be really interesting to see. So like and subscribe and turn on post notifications. And goodbye.